Welcome back to another Hearts of Iron 4 Dev Diary. Now, I'm going to go and tell you guys up front, this is not really going to be talking about too much information regarding new updates and things like that, but instead is showing a little bit of a roadmap that they've taken, the pretty much way Paradox works, why they release DLC the way they do, release updates and stuff like that, but it's also got a lot of information in here, and it does have a little bit of an idea of what the new DLC might look like. They also give a little heads up that they are considering possibly making a Hearts of Iron 5, and it might be Cold War, so that's going to be pretty interesting along with a couple Q&A type questions. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So first off, they explained that on June 6th of this year, they're going to be having the 3rd year anniversary of Hearts of Iron 4, which is up here, and they do currently have sales going on in the Steam Workshop for Hearts of Iron 4's 3rd year anniversary. Now, they also talk about how the 1.7 Hydra update has released. It actually released yesterday on June 4th. And yeah, that's pretty much in full availability now with the radio pack, the updates, the Axis armor pack, which I absolutely love right now. Nothing like rolling around with a Panther or a Jag Panther or a whatever, SPAAs, all that fun stuff now. Basically, this whole section here is just talking about the path of development, what they were looking at the time, like 3 years ago when they were looking at the game. Podcat told Jonathan here pretty much what the idea was behind Hearts of Iron 4 and what they wanted. So 40% new features and revised. We are more or less redoing all the Hearts of Iron 3 systems to some degree. 30% usability interaction, ease of learning, heavy focus on playable on map, appropriate levels of interaction, not micro hell, and not hands-off boring. 15% eye candy, which let's be honest it is, bombing animation, partial effects, and burning battleships and all that kind of stuff. And 15% flavor, like focus on cool World War II stuff people know about from documentaries and school leaders' tech historical ideas. So that's pretty much what they had the idea of Hearts of Iron 4 being whenever they first started the project. So that's kind of interesting to learn about a little bit. Now right here is just a few other things they were talking about. The first section, guidelines for feature designs that I put down. As you can see, the wide accessibility. The game should not scare new players. Too late. I'm kidding. New target audience, outside fans of previous games, is people who enjoy CK2, EU4, and are interested in World War II. Should not be harder to get into. This pretty much is a little bit interesting to see here, all the stuff they were trying to work around. It's really cool. But the main things I wanted to point out in this dev diary, so I don't waste too much of your guys' time, instead of just going over everything they were looking at. I mean, you guys can pause the video, full screen it, put it in high def, and just kind of read over some of this. Or you can visit the Paradox forums and actually see the dev diary there. But here's a little bit of interesting information. So right here, they kind of sum up the reason Paradox releases as much DLC as they do. So as you can see, I suspect everyone reading this knows how Paradox works. We keep support of our games over a long time, both with free updates and paid DLC, where we try to strive for a 50-50 balance. This gives us the unique opportunity to rework and improve systems after release and to adjust and grow the game based on feedback. Some of this feedback also comes from telemetry data, which is invaluable because the Hearts of Iron 4 community is pretty much split right down the middle between historical gamers and ahistorical games, and of course, also with a hardcore group of competitive MP players for multiplayer. So we got to make sure we get the right picture, not just who is the loudest. So in case you didn't know, Paradox is not really, I would say, a major AAA company. Now this kind of lets you understand the reason they release so much DLC the way they do is because that way they can continue support for the games instead of just releasing them, have 1, 2, maybe 3 DLCs over the course of a couple years, and then they don't release any more, and they can't afford to really keep the game updated. They can't keep changing things around. So pretty much whenever people buy DLCs and stuff, that gives them the funds so they can continue updating the game and continue adding new things over time. That's why they do that, and that is why they release DLCs often and all these other special packs and stuff. Now, pretty much they just talk here a little bit about the ideas of the man the guns, waking the tiger, death of dishonor, together for victory, stuff like that. They were kind of coming up with the ideas of, which is kind of interesting to read a little bit. But here's pretty much probably one of the big little tips they're doing in this thing. We are now starting development on the next expansion, which is still a secret. I think it's actually called Hearts of Iron 4's Husky DLC, I believe is what it's called, so I can't wait for the Soviet tree to come out. If you're wondering how I got to that idea, it's because the Husky is a dog from Russia. Actually, no, that is probably not exactly the reason. I actually believe it's going to be a DLC updating Italy, or maybe even possibly changing some stuff around in Africa, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to be something to do with Italy, honestly, since it's obviously Operation Husky. So we're going to see about this, and they were talking about giving Italy a new tree inside one of the last dev diaries I had talked about. But anyway, this is just a Q&A thing right here they were doing with a lot of different people on Twitter, I guess, and a few other, maybe the forums and stuff like that. That's pretty much what this whole section here is. Now, the only major thing that I saw in this was right here. Will you have a globe in Hearts of Iron 5? Which is a couple questions that I was seeing. And they're talking about kind of a globe map like War Thunder's World War mode. I think that's what they were referring to in this, and it's kind of an interesting idea. Or is Paradox really dedicated to that cylinder life? The only game I could see benefiting from the globe would be a Cold War game, honestly, for accurate missile distances. Globes have a lot of downsides, like not being able to, see half the world, etc. Maybe something like Imperator's simulated half globe camera, though. I quite like that one after getting used to it. I'm sorry about stuttering through some of this. I'm pretty tired. Now, you're wondering how we got to the idea that maybe they're going to make a Cold War game. The reason I think that maybe Hearts of Iron 5 might be Cold War is because, I mean, let's be honest here. Why would they kind of mention specifically would be a Cold War game, honestly? Like, they had to think about that probably for a minute. Now, I'm not saying that's a guarantee that it'll be a Cold War game, and it's kind of like, maybe, but it's still kind of interesting that they would specifically point out a Cold War game, and while referring to a question about Hearts of Iron 5, if they were just going to maybe talk about Hearts of Iron 4 or something like that. Why couldn't they have mentioned Hearts of Iron 4's missiles and stuff like that in there? So I don't know, that's kind of interesting, and they may be thinking of Hearts of Iron 5 right now, so that's kind of a cool thing. And then finally, what's the next expansion about? It's a secret still. So as you can tell here, they are doing a lot of work with the update, and they are answering a lot of people's questions. And oh, and by the way, who in the team has the most hours in the game, and how many is that? It's probably Daniel, or as you guys know him, DA9L, on Discords and Twitters and stuff like that. Usually he has something like 10,000 hours, while I am just under 6,000. So yeah, guys, that is a pretty interesting dev diary. Got some cool information in there about the development of Hearts of Iron 4. If you guys want to check it out, you can see it on the Twitter page for Hearts of Iron 4. They always have a direct link to it, and a lot of other things too. But also, I think you guys would also get kind of bored reading this. I mean, it's just mostly talking about the development of the game, which you guys can just pause and then just full screen on YouTube, and you can probably see a lot of this. So anyway, guys, again, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, as it helps my channel out a lot, and maybe one day I'll be big enough to actually do a 1v1 with Ice Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Stay awesome.